Hello and welcome to the Business of Business podcast. I'm Roy. You can always, as usual, you can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast. We are also on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. And so what we try to do is bring, we have guests that can help us in our business anywhere from a solopreneur like myself and, all the way up to managers of major corporations. That's the main reason I started this podcast was number one, it helps me. I learn something from every one of my guests, and then able to put that into work. Not only all the great people I get to meet, and so without any further ado, we'll talk to our guest today. It's Joseph Sudhip. He is with Business Model Designing, and what he does is he helps CEOs and business owners that want to stay ahead of the game by using different models to model their businesses or where they want to go. So, it's important. We talk about it in the marketing process all the time that we need to have a roadmap. We need to know where we are. We need to know where we're going so we can have a path. And the same is true in our overall business. We need a plan that we can work every day. And then also we need flexibility. We need to regroup from time to time to figure out, what's changed in our environment, the company, the product, competition, things like that. So without further ado, Joseph, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us this morning.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. It's a real honor to be in your show.
So just tell us a little bit about, kind of how you got here. And I think you have a financial background, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of how you ended up here and what your models can do to help CEOs and businesses.
All right. So I think I'll start a little bit of my story. So I'm a professional accountant. I have a CMA from US and an MBA from an Australian university. And I did my MBA in international business. So I have been, for 18 years, I have been in the corporate life as a financial controller, director of finance, and human resources, CFO, those kind of roles. So I was pretty blessed enough to get a good break in my early 20s to work with global, multi-billion dollar organizations. So that gave me tremendous exposure to be in the game a little bit ahead of, compared to others who are in the same career. So by the age of 40, I was like, you basically hit this 40 syndrome. To basically, you think about what you need to keep doing. Do you need to keep doing the same financial stuff or do something different? So I was looking at various opportunities to, what else I could do. And then I came across this business coaching profession wherein I could leverage my, the good exposure, international exposure, which I have got on a global level. So that's how I came into business coaching. And once in the business coaching, then I wanted to find my own niche because there's a lot of niches in business coaching, like leadership coaching, personality development, strategy, and all those. So I was looking at where exactly is a big gap in the industry now. And when I was doing my research, I found that business model designing, there's a huge gap within small and medium enterprises to really figure out how to do a best business model designing for this business. And many are not like aware on how to do this. So I started researching and doing more studies and qualifications on this to see what exactly is business model design. And it was really pretty interesting. And so my mission is to help CEOs and business owners of small and medium enterprises to give them clarity on what business model designing is, how to do the business model design, and how they could scale up in terms of valuation, profitability, and scalability with the business model.
Okay, great. So let's just start at the beginning. So I come to you and say, Joseph, help me do you typically work with people just starting out with a brand new business where they just have an idea on a napkin, or do you more or less help maybe ongoing concern that is struggling?
It's both actually, new enterprises plus the ongoing ones.
Okay. All right. So I come to you, say, "Hey, Joseph. Either way, I've got this great idea. Here's my napkin. It's all written down here for you." Or, I'm kind of hit the wall in my business. Where do we start in the process?
Okay, great. So the first thing first, right?
Yeah.
So first thing what we sit and brainstorm on, basically your napkin model, asking like what really is your value proposition. So when we tell value proposition, like what exactly customer gains,
Right.
or what is that you are trying to solve
Right.
in your business. So if it's a product, like how is it helping a customer? If it's a service, basically what are the pains? What are the gains? What are the gain creators of your product or service? And what are the pain relievers? So it could be on
Right.
both. It could be either a pain reliever or a gain creator, your product or service. So we basically, and that is basically what I mean by value proposition. So we basically drill down into the value proposition and see like what exactly it is.
Yeah.
And then the second step is we look at the customer segment. What is the customer segment you are trying to approach with your product and service? And what is this customer segment like? Like what are the comparable products in the market? And this is the start.
Okay. Yeah, I think we found a great little jumping off point right off the beginning. You mentioned value proposition, which it's so important, and a lot of times business people fall into a business by accident. They do something, somebody likes it, so they do more, and they kind of get moving along. Or unless you have a very unique product or service, most of the time your product or service is basically a commodity. So trying to differentiate that value proposition, it's so important. I mean, why, there well, let's just choose, I'm trying to think of a good, so we sell soft drinks. I mean, there's like 100 different soft drinks on the market. What is mine going to do to bring value to you as the consumer? Why choose me over anything? And it's the same with the service. I mean, like me, I do a lot of consulting, so there's a consultant on every corner nowadays. So what differentiates me from everybody else in the market? What's the value? And so it's important to dig down and try to find out what that is exactly. I think we miss that a lot. And again, I kind of relate this back to the marketing end, is that sometimes we just say, "Hey, I've got this awesome product, buy it," where we leave out that. So if we can figure out the value in the business model, it translates to a lot of other areas in the business itself, or in the process itself.
Yep, you're right, absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess when you talk with owners, is it difficult to get to kind of bring this to the surface? Are people kind of keying in on this is the value that I can bring, or is that something that really takes a lot of work on the front end to say we've got to determine the value before we can actually move on?
It takes a little bit of exercise because it's not because we need to find that unique value to that customer segment where it will like really be an aha moment for them.
Yeah.
So, so for that, again, I really drill deep down and see, like, if you if once you identify your customer segment, you have to identify like what are the jobs which these customers do. So, and for me, I like differentiate like three to four jobs. Like one is a functional job, another is a social job, an emotional job. Let's put it three for for
Okay.
explanation's sake. So which of the jobs is my product and service, catering to, and what are the gains in each jobs? and what are the pains in each jobs, and how can I relieve those, my product or service relieve those pains, or how can this product or service create gains. So this is where like it's a real brainstorming session, and this many times even this business owners wouldn't have thought in these details.
Right.
And this is basically the base foundation of how once we start building a business model.
Yeah, and I assume that not only digging into that customer segment, but also digging into the competitor segment too. I think that's something that another thing that we kind of gloss over is that, hey, I sell this product or service, and it's the best, everybody should buy from me, and we really don't know what is our competitor doing, what's their offer. We may know their price point, but as far as digging into what is that process to what is the value they add, because inevitably we are going to have to differentiate ourselves from that competition. So I guess this is a great point to maybe even do some mystery shopping of your consumers, to get out there to really dig down into detail what their offerings are.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And so how do you identify their competition? Do you rely just on them, or do you actually get out and try to do a little research yourself to see who the competitors may be?
Okay. So this is like the second stage of it. Like once we identify our value proposition and the customer segment, then what we do is something called business testing. So we do different kind of testing, like it could be a beta testing, it could be an A/B testing, or it could be some surveys, just to make sure that whatever the assumptions which we had or which we brainstormed during our session is actually a reality. Because many of times entrepreneurs and startups, they are in this mystic world, right?
Right.
Oh, this is going to be a big thing, it's going to crack the world kind of thing.
Right.
But is the same assumption correct? So that is basically called business testing of assumptions. So we do surveys or A/B testing in these niche customer segments which we have identified, and see what is the reality.
Okay, yeah, and that's the other thing is, when we, as entrepreneurs or business people, we all have the next great idea, and sometimes we think we've hit on something that's not even out there. If you do a little research, you may be surprised to find that there are 10 other people that are already doing, what you want to do. So anyway, can be back to the drawing board again to beef up that value proposition if it's worth moving forward with. So. All right. So, what is the next step? Now we've got the value proposition. We've looked at our customers. We've looked at our competition. Are we ready to launch and get out there and see what we can do?
Nope, nope.
Not yet.
If that was the case, life would have been so easy.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So this is, as I told, it's a very basic, it's a foundation.
Right.
What
Right.
we explain now, and I basically give a quote always. Like one we what we did is we identified that there is a gap in the market. Now it's a question of seeing whether there is a gap, whether there is a market in that gap,
Okay. Yeah.
because that's pretty crucial.
Yeah. 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 And I think, just to clarify for myself, I think what you mean is that there may be a gap in the market, but if it's only one, if it's a very small percentage of of people, if there's only 5 people that really need that, is it going to be a money maker for you? So I guess you kind of have to decide, is the market, the market of the gap, is it really wide enough, deep enough? Is there enough money in it that we could sustain our business or idea off of?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So basically, whether there is a gap, there's a market in that gap.
Okay.
So that again, you need to do a little bit more a wider market testing to see whether you have, and this is where this technology comes into picture, because nowadays it's very easy, not very easy, but it's more easy compared to other time. Otherwise you have to stand in for a surveys in front of shopping mall or whatever.
Right.
But nowadays with the social media, it's more easy to test the vastness of the market. It could be we can test with the clicks, number of clicks you receive, or number of clicks which you get to move on to the to basically to the buying page.
Yeah.
And we can also test at what price is a ideal price for this market and those things. So that is basically the second stage, whether there is a real market in the gap.
Okay. All right. So we've identified that. We feel like there's a good, a large enough market in this gap. So we're going to choose to move forward. Where would we go from here?
Okay, great. So once we did this, then we go a little bit more up,
Yeah.
and then I work on like 14 different business canvases.
Okay.
So out of that 14, it's two which we discussed, which is the value proposition, and we defined what would be the features of our product and services, and the third one is the customer segment.
Okay.
So out of my 14 canvases, we covered three.
Oh, okay.
Now we know. Okay, so here this is our offering, and here is our customer segment. Now it's a question of working on three canvases. Fourth canvas is for communication. How do we communicate to this target segment?
Okay.
And what is that we are communicating? So there are two elements in this canvas, because you have a product and service here, you have a customer segment here.
Right.
How on earth are we going to communicate or make know that this product exists in this market? So that is the next strategy which build, like what are the ways which we can communicate based on it's purely based on the customer segment.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess because just depending upon who we're trying to reach. Is it a small business owner? Is it a consumer? Who we're marketing to not only dictates our communication style, but also the platform in which we, I guess, if we're going to go after consumers, Facebook, Instagram may be our choice. Whereas if we're looking at small businesses or departmental managers, if it's more of a B2B product or service, then we may want to hit LinkedIn and do our communication there.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So then the fifth one is called channels.
Okay.
What are the channels through which we are going to deliver our product or service? So on a traditional method, we all know that there is this direct and indirect channel. Direct channel may be being making your own sales representative and doing,
Yeah.
or your own e-commerce website. And indirect channels are you can have n number of distributors, or you can build partnerships to keep selling, or platforms. There's a lot of things available out in the market to bring the channels. And what I see is, with my experience with these businesses, this is something which has not been, taken seriously. Most of the businesses have like just one or two channels, and they think, that's it.
Right.
There is no more, options available.
Okay.
So I really sit with them and, explore different opportunities. Like even for my coaching, which is like a small business, I have around 9 different channels.
Oh, wow.
See, so
Yeah.
so that is the power of channels, right?
Yeah.
The more you can increase the channel, the more the potential for your income.
Right. Right. Okay. Awesome. That's a good point.
And then the sixth one is called customer relationship. So in customer relationship, I focus on three things. How is that you're going to get customers? How are you growing customers? And how you can keep customers.
Okay.
And this is really important because you need to have a strategy for all the three.
Right.
It's not easy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and that it's good too that you bring up the customer retention, because a lot of times it's unfortunate, but especially in a newer startup or a newer product, we're hustling, trying to get new people, but we're not taking care of the ones that we have. And then all of a sudden, we're just kind of like that one hit wonder. We just have nothing but new people. We've got nobody that's been around for a while. So definitely
Exactly.
something that, because I'm assuming, from my experience is that the acquisition of that customer is the most expensive part. So while it may be costly to hang on to them, it's not near as much as the cost of getting them. So we have to really pay attention to that, not only to keep our revenue stream, but also on the expense management part.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So I've told six right
Yes.
now. Okay. Now the seventh one is called revenue streams. So what are the revenue streams possible in this business? Can you work on a subscription model, licensing model, franchisee model, recurring revenue, transactional revenue? There's a whole lot to be identified. So, and then you decide upon like what are the streams which I can use in this particular business.
Okay.
And the eighth one is called pricing models. So for each revenue stream, you can have different pricing models.
Right.
Because if it is a subscription model, it's a different pricing. If it's a transactional model, it's a different pricing. So, so you do, and so you need to find out what are your pricing models. So now I covered around eight.
Yeah.
So now,
But sorry, I was just going to jump in before we move on there on the pricing. It's I've worked with people before, and you say whatever their price is, they're like, well, how did you get to that? Like, well, that's just what it is, or my competition. I worked with a company that was a carpet cleaner one time, and so his competition charged $39.95 or something per room, and so he charged $35. Wow, that's great, but what's your cost in providing that service? I have no idea. Well, come to find out, his cost was about $40 to provide that, and he was charging $35, but he didn't base it on any research or logic of what are the expenses that are included. So I guess just making the point, there is a lot that goes into considering what is a price point that we need to develop, and sometimes they may be lost leaders if we're trying to acquire somebody for a bigger purchase or another purchase, but still we need to give that a lot of thought as well.
yep. And why he is just doing a competitor pricing as he has not done that first exercise of the value proposition and the customer that mapping.
Right.
Because if he has some unique features in the product, then you sell that features and up your price.
Right. Okay.
So whatever the six which I told, like communication channels, customer segment, customer relationship, pricing model, and revenue streams.
Right.
So these all six canvases, I basically like to call it as multipliers. And why I call it multipliers, because if you see, like, if you're able to touch any of these canvases, the result is the enhancement in your revenue.
Okay.
If you touch your channels, if you touch your communication, all result in increase in revenue.
Right.
So I love to call it as multipliers.
Okay.
Okay. So now we discussed what is the offering. We discussed on the multipliers. Now we are going to look at the other side, which is the configuration side, or I call it in a pet name called levers. Levers means there is another six canvases in that. If you are able to optimize any of these canvas, that will result in cost reduction.
Okay.
So the ninth one, which is again really key, is key partnerships. So key partnerships with respect to suppliers, because nowadays it's very competitive. So you need to stick to what you're really good at. So if someone else is good at something, give him that, and then you focus on what you're really good at. Build key partnerships, strategic alliances.
Right.
This is going to be a buzzword because you can't keep having a big chain on all the functions.
Yeah, don't spread your resources too thin.
Yeah. So ninth is key partners. Tenth is key activities. So you need to decide what are the key activities in your business, starting from starting from finding the suppliers, getting the goods, manufacturing, or how are you going to do the service, how are you going to communicate. All this have to be listed out. All the key activities. 11th is key resources. So in order to do this, you need key resources, right? Who are going to be your key resources, and how are you going to source it? So this is basically on the human resources side.
Right.
So now once you add these key partnerships, key resources, and key activities, you will get another canvas called cost structure. Basically, when you add these three, it's your cost structure.
Okay.
And then you have another canvas called key assets. Basically, what are the assets required to run this show? And the next canvas is investments. How much investments do you need to buy the key assets and to have your working capital? So this is on the lever side with another 6 business canvases.
Okay.
So 6 plus 6 plus 2, 14 canvases. So this is how I help clients to build a business canvas. And the interesting thing is, if you want to make a business plan out of it, it's very easy. You pull these extracts from all the 14 canvases and it's your business plan.
Yeah, no, that's a great stepping stone to lay out your business plan very thoughtfully because unfortunately, a lot of those key steps that you mentioned are left out, leave a big hole in our plan. Even if we don't see it, you find it eventually when you try to make it operational. So definitely worth the time on the front end to go through this. So let me ask you about timing. And I know a lot is dependent upon how big of a project and on how how timely I communicate back and forth with you as your customer. But basically, what is an average time frame from start to finish to get through the 14 canvases?
I would normally what I do is workshops.
Okay.
So it would take if it is an online workshops, normally it takes a month. In the sense you can't have the full day, right, online.
Right.
So we do half days each week.
Okay.
So almost half days of 4 weeks, it will be like 2 days.
Okay.
I mean 2 days full workshop, which would be in the span of a month.
Okay. And then these are trying times that we are in. So let's just look at that. Is that if we had done this a year ago and we'd gone through the 14 canvases, now would be probably a good time to kind of come back and would you want to go back and look at all 14 of them, or when you revamp, is there just certain pieces that you pull out and want to look at those?
Oh yeah, so we would not look at all the canvases, but we will see based on what the external environment is. Like, so today we have this pandemic going on, right?
Yes.
So which are the canvases is getting affected in this? Is it communication, or is it the revenue stream, or is it customer relationship? And then we work on, based on current scenario, what basically works best.
Okay.
And then try to do optimization or make changes in that canvas.
Yeah, and the pandemic is it's something that is so extraordinary, but I think that it's a good practice to always revisit parts of these canvases, I guess, throughout the year, because we may have new competition that came up. We may have somebody that introduced either a like or a little bit of a superior product. We may have somebody that had a cost reduction or cost increase in our competitions. There's so many factors out there that change that even though I guess this is not just one and done, we don't do this, get in business, put it on the shelf, and never think about it again. We have to, if we want to sustain our business, we have to be flexible and we have to be in tune with what's going on out there. Do you find that to be correct?
Oh, I mean, it's really good that you brought this point out because actually my mission going forward is just this, that my mission is to make sure business model is being revisited like a budget in every organization.
Right.
Before you do the budget, you revisit your business model and then make the budget. And I want to make it, tell to the whole world and make this as a practice and part of their system because it's so effective.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's all great advice. Well, so what is one tool that you use in your daily life, either in your business life or your personal life, that either a tool or a routine or what do you do to keep yourself on track?
Uh, One thing which I do is, as all the successful people does, is I have a routine. So I stick to my routine so that I tend to get effective. And then, of course, I do some exercise to be in present,
Right.
present, so that what I have felt is rather than going on reading n number of books, if at all we are being quiet and we live in present, this nature itself will keep giving us messages.
Right. Right. Yeah, we definitely have
So
to
I
be in tune with ourselves and with the universe around us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tend to be in the nature more and then being present. So I kind of get a lot of ideas, which, it just like it pours in.
All right. Great. Well, Joseph, if you wouldn't mind, tell people, how they can get a hold of you. Basically, who is your client? I know it's most businesses, but probably want to work with either, like CEO or the owner of the business or top management to really have an effect. Somebody that can put these plans into place. So, just tell us a little bit about who you work with, how they can get a hold of you. Everybody needs to sit down with you and get these 14 canvases looked at. If you haven't, if you've already done it, then it's definitely always a good time to be thinking about, any updates to those as well.
Okay, so I work with CEOs, business owners, and strategic leadership team. Um, and since it's like a huge demand on this, what I've done is I do three things. One is I have a web page called thebusinessmodelcoach.com,
Okay.
and there I sell a course. It's like a 1 hour video of giving details on what is the business model, its framework, and giving some tips if they can do it themselves.
Okay.
So they can buy the course, they can download the video, and then keep hearing, and they can do that
Okay.
if they can do that. Second is I conduct webinars every bi-weekly, and it's going to start from December. So basically, what I do is I hold this webinar for the CEOs, business owners, and strategic leadership team. And in this webinar, I actually pick one of the CEOs and basically play a gamification webinar with them on business model. So I keep asking questions and then try to help him frame a business model then and there. So
Okay.
it's a very interesting show which is going to start in December. So those who want to keep getting ideas on different perspectives on business model, it's like every bi-weekly, and so they can subscribe to that. And the third is, they can have these workshops with me on business model designing, wherein we will really drill deep into each models and then and there keep designing this.
Okay. Yeah, and I will be sure and put all the links to that in the show notes and on my webpage as well, and try to drive you some traffic. This is it's such an important service that you provide that I just really encourage everybody to take a look at it, because while we got to lay the foundation with planning, and then also, like we've talked, we've got to revisit that. We've got to be flexible in order to make to have longevity in the business world. We can't just be rigid and static. So, but well, thank you so much for your time today, Joseph. We certainly appreciate you going over the 14 canvases with you. And again, you can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then we also are. You can download us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Joseph, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. Okay?
So thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me into the show.
All right. Thank you, sir.